Hi, welcome back. In the last session, we learned how we could use APIs to access and to make and to rather interact with the database that we created with Calligraphy. We were able through Postman to really have not only have API access but also to interact through requests with the mini application, the mini portfolio application that we created. Today is the last time you're gonna hear hi, welcome back. At least for this course, I wanted to spend at least a little bit of time to look back into everything that we've learned throughout these lectures. So I'm gonna go back to the outline just to remind us of everything that we've lived throughout the different sessions that we had. At the very beginning and in the first part, you learned the basics of web development. Okay, you learned how to have a shell application. You learned how to have Git on that command line. You learned to have a server and more precisely a MAMP or XAMPP, which is an Apache server, along with a PHP interpreter, along with a MySQL interpreter, and have an environment that is local that you can use at will for any PHP application that you want to create. We also learned about some PHP basics. Did you learn the whole language? No, you did not. But at least throughout this course, you learned the basic syntax, and you learned where to look for the information and where to look for more whenever you need more. I encourage you to go and keep looking into PHP to learn more about the language, whether it's through the references that we provided in this course, or whether by searching, or whether by connecting to other communities online who can help you learn the deep syntax of the language. I would strongly encourage you to do this. Always keep in mind that in the environment, in the development environment world, things change very quickly. What is relevant today and what is irrelevant in this video may no longer be relevant in a week, or maybe even in a month or in a year. Okay, PHP also is evolving as a language. Today we are looking at PHP version 7 dot something. Probably next year it's going to be an 8, maybe the following year it's going to be a 9, and some of the things that work today and that are working today in this video might not work tomorrow. Okay, so stay up to date. A big part of being a developer is to stay up to date with what's happening in the development community. You also learn basics about database, basic syntax, mainly SQL syntax, and more precisely MySQL syntax, and we chose MySQL as the interpreter of the SQL language because it integrates very well with PHP. Also, there are references in there, whether it's W3 Schools or whether it's the MySQL documentation. I would strongly encourage you to stay up to date with that language. Okay, again, MySQL is version probably 5.4 or 5.6. This MySQL is also evolving on its own, so keep an eye on what's happening in that world. Great. That whole thing was the first part, and the first part was to introduce you to the basic setup that every developer needs to have, no matter what language they are using. There is a preparation phase that every developer needs to go through. Now it happens that we're using PHP, and for PHP there might be some form of a preparation that we did in this first part, but if you are using a different language, if you are using a different framework, you also need to reserve some time for this preparation phase. The second part and the third part were about calligraphy. You know, I created calligraphy throughout my journey in this development world. Every time I stumbled upon something, I asked myself, but how can I do it differently? How do I do it? How would I do it? And that is how calligraphy came upon. It came upon my experience, it came upon my mistakes, it came upon my failures and everything, and my learnings in the general sense. And I created calligraphy. But I want to tell you that you could also create your own. Okay? Nobody, it's not because I happen to be giving or educating you on how to use calligraphy that calligraphy is the way to go. No, 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 no. There are lots of frameworks out there, and I hope that after what you learned today, you'd be able to create your own and even to personalize your own framework. Okay? What worked for me can work for you, but you can even add to it. This is one of the main reasons why calligraphy is open source. It is, well, first of all, it's open source because it uses open source languages such as PHP and MySQL. But my main objective out of it is because I don't want people to see it as an ending. Calligraphy is not an ending, it's the beginning of something new. It's the beginning of everything that you guys are going to build on it. And I would hope that you would continue to build on it. So, a second part of calligraphy and what you learned about calligraphy, you learned how to install it. You learned about MVC. You learned about an MVC architecture. You learned about frameworks in the general sense. You learned about routes. You learned about requests, about controllers, about models, about views. You learned how to create templates, HTML templates through the views. You learned how to create forms. You learned how to validate data. You learned how to authenticate users in a relatively quicker way, especially with what calligraphy offers. Okay, you have all the ingredients to create any application that you want, and all these ingredients will allow you to create very powerful things, whether it's an e-commerce app, whether it's a simple website, whether it's any other transactional website. You can even create your own social network if you would like, with everything that you learned with calligraphy today. In the third part, we introduce some features that are out of the box, pre-packaged with calligraphy that you could use. All of these features you can add on them. You can create your own. You can even change the ones that calligraphy came up with. Okay, this is not the end, and it is not an outcome. It is not an ending point for me. And as far as I'm concerned, and as far as calligraphy is concerned, our mission is that this is the beginning of something different, and the beginning starts with you. This might be the end of this course, that's right, but the code will always be there. The code can always be your starting point, and we hope that you continue to build on everything that we did thus far. Now, calligraphy on its own will continue to evolve, okay? So that code that is on the calligraphy GitHub, which I will go to again just to show it to you. And if you no longer remember what it is, always go to GitHub, always go and search for calligraphy. You are going to find the source. This is going to evolve. It is not guaranteed that it will be the same. Tomorrow, more features are going to be there. We are on a roadmap to create even more powerful features for you. So keep checking it out. This course again is not the end point. It is the beginning. It is the beginning of where to look for the information. Okay, I don't want this course to sound for you that if you don't know it, or if you're not able to succeed in it, that you can no longer continue. Not at all. Again, like I said, the starting point is the calligraphy GitHub. Okay, this is where the magic will happen moving forward. Don't rely back on this course, don't revisit this course. Go to the calligraphy documentation and let this be your starting point for anything that you will develop in the future. I hope this course was instructive for you. I personally enjoyed every second of it. Everything that we created together, I enjoyed, and I hope it was the same thing for you. I wish you all the best, and always remember, calligraphy is not an endpoint, it is the beginning of your journey. Have a fantastic development life.